all of my life. You know, we have here Ian Dent, who wrote the greatest pop song of my lifetime. The things you say, your purple prose just gives you away. The things you say. Ooh, you're unbelievable. Oh. So we've got Ian here. We've also got in the room speechwriters to probably half of the cabinet here, including people like Dominic, Rob, and Michael Gove, and Liz Truss. The things you say, your purple prose. There we go. You get the idea. We've got some living legends in the room. We've got Andrew Adonis. Anyone who worked with him as minister in Whitehall will know how he transformed schools and transformed. Incredible guy. We've got Darren Charles, who gave the world Dave TV, and we've also got my mate Dave, who loves watching TV. And Dave is here with the DTI posse. There's quite an old DTI posse in the house. And Dave, Mike and Julie were actually there in Bridge Place on the very first day that I walked in, on my first day as a civil servant when I was just 18 years old. And it was them that really, really got me into drinking. I just really want to thank them so much. We've got Tracy Vegro here. Tracy is the woman. She is a phenomenal woman. Speak to her tonight. She inspires, influences, energises. She got me into private office and got me on the fast food programme. No, absolute nonsense. The conviction, the belief that I got from Tracy was so she got me into private office. And we've got Caroline right here. Where's Caroline? Caroline's here, and she got me into Lucy. And literally, I mean, when she said, just casually, we used to sit close to each other, and she just said casually, I think she fancies you. And I was like, really? Incredible, absolutely incredible. There are so many connections in the room tonight. Lucy is massively into Joe Nadin's books. Where's Joe? Joe's over there. And Joe is massively into John Yorke's books. Where's John? John Yorke? John's over there. And John Yorke is really into my books, which proves, folks, it is really all about me. There are way too many other people to name check, but really I do just want to thank everyone for helping me celebrate and promote this gorgeous new book, and for splashing so many pictures over social media. Haven't we done an incredible job over the last week? Absolutely superb. There's been more buzz than you'd get in an Ann Summers shop. So, we're just hitting our peak now, so just push that dial up to 10, folks. So thank you all very much. I don't want to keep you away from the conversation, but I do just want to say a little bit about the inspiration for the book, about why I wrote the book, how I came to write the book. It actually started, the idea started 9th of March 2016 when I was running my advanced speechwriting course here in this room. In the evening we went down to the Comedy Store where we met Neil Malarkey. Many of you will have heard of Neil Malarkey. He's very famous for appearing on Whose Line Is It Anyway, Austin Powers movies. Now he's principally famous for giving an endorsement on my book, which will appear on billboards, buses, within weeks. I'm absolutely sure. We went down there and Neil was like, what do you think of Brexit? What do you think of Brexit? And at this stage, the referendum had only just been announced, and so it was a new word. It was literally just a new word. It didn't have to be called Brexit. For a time, people were thinking it might be called Brexit. The image of Boris Brexit would have perhaps left people with a slightly different, but Neil was saying, Brexit, it sounded Brexit, it sounds funny, doesn't it? It kind of sounds like, a breakfast bar that you might eat as you're running out of the house, to go and catch the bus in the morning. And I thought, oh God, isn't that funny? And he'd noticed the phonological connection between Brexit and breakfast. And this didn't amuse me. It's like Sergeant Pepper and Salt and Pepper. You know, I enjoy this kind of thing. Jeremy Hunt and Jeremy, I like this kind of thing. But then I started getting worried about it because, of course, when we're connecting with food, food is irresistible, speaks right to our instinctive brains. Food also means money. We talk about bringing home the bacon, bread, someone not being worth a bean. And so I started thinking, oh my goodness, he's got a good connection point here, talking about Brexit and food. And of course, from that moment on, Boris, whilst it might have been an accidental connection to start off with, from that point on, it was systematically and strategically promoted, this connection between Brexit and food. So in the run-up to the referendum, 3 weeks before the referendum, Boris made just 2 visits. Both were to food processing facilities. One was to a fish processing place, the other was to a biscuit factory, where he went in there and he said, I've never seen so much dough in all my life before. But the difference with you is you've got control over your dough. We've lost control over our dough. 50 billion pounds a day we're sending over. I think I just made up a figure even faster than Boris Johnson. 50 million pounds a day we're sending over to the European Union. We need to take back control of our dough, and that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Take back control. And then we had the referendum, of course, record result, biggest popular vote we've ever seen in our country's history. But it didn't stop there. Then, after the referendum, he wrote an article for The Sun in which he said we were going to have our cake and eat it. And this then went all over the place. There were 1,273 articles that appeared in a 2-year period between 2016 and 2018, which referenced Brexit and cake. So he's making the connection. The President of the European Commission, the Governor of the Bank of England, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, all of them talked about Brexit as cake, even though they weren't trying to promote it. They'd promoted and connected these ideas so much in our minds that 2 new words appeared in the Oxford English Dictionary, which are there today, cakeism and cakeist, to characterise Boris's approach to Brexit. So quite extraordinary. Did this matter? He was making connections that stick in our mind. Well, you know, the neuroscientist Donald Hebb, he says when neurons fire together, they wire together. So you make these connections, they're never lost from that point on. So they are living in our brain, even if it is as a subconscious level. Now with food as well, food is extra powerful because studies have shown that even when we're just looking at images of food, our mouths start watering and our stomachs start producing enzymes to break down food. So basically we're preparing ourselves to eat. So Boris was getting people salivating for breakfast, for Brexit, you know, with this strategy. It was like Pavlov's dogs. It was completely Pavlovian, but this is how political communication works. Boris knows this. He's a master. He won London twice. He won the Brexit referendum. He won more votes in the 2019 general election than Blair, Thatcher or Churchill ever won in a general election. The only person who's ever won more than him was John Major in 1992. Of course, it's really ironic now that a guy who made his political career on cake might end up breaking his political career on cake. But maybe it's not surprising, given what I'm told from people in the know, who tell me that Boris Johnson is a serious cake addict. At least I think that's what they said. And so you see, what Boris gets is that basically we have 2 piles of things in life. In one pile, we have things that no one really gives a shit about. You know, data, serious analysis, mundane things, task lists, all of this. And in the other pile, you have things that instinctively, irresistibly, we are drawn to, like danger, like romance, or like cake. What bad communicators will do, they will speak unremittingly to this pile here. And we all know what that feels like. You know, I am dying here and you're killing me, you know, like that. Whereas what good communicators do is they connect. They connect between this pile, between the don't give a shit pile, and the must give a shit pile, through a mix of metaphor, analogy, suggestion, innuendo, all of these different things. And that's how they create the energy in which to drive change. But this is not just something that people like Boris Johnson can do. This is something that actually we can all do. The connections that we make are a choice, and they affect the way that we think, and we can create connections that are helpful to us. you know, with something like coronavirus. How do we talk about coronavirus? Do we talk about it as a journey in which we're taking steps? Or do we talk about it as a war in which we're battling, sorry Thomas, in which we're battling an invisible enemy? When we're speaking about climate change, should we speak about it as the United Nations do, as being a race against time, or should we speak about it like Greta Thunberg? Our house is on fire. When we're speaking about the conflict in Ukraine, should we be connecting it with World War II, or should we be connecting it, is the correct analogy, actually, you know, the invasion of Iraq? What's the correct connection to make? And it's not just the geopolitical issues where we can make connections to bring change, it's the personal ones as well. So like the way that we think about ourselves, what are the connections we make when we think about ourselves? When do we think about ourselves as being a zero? Or do we think of ourselves as being a hero? You know, now during the rough lockdown years, you know, stripped of social contact and our ability sometimes to trade and do our profession and to do what makes up our identity, many people felt like zeros. But you know, as Bowie said, you know, why not? Why can't we all be heroes just for one day? Why don't we connect ourselves with superheroes? And this kind of connection actually is proven it works. As I say in the book, there was a study that was done that showed that simply putting kids in to do an exam wearing a Superman t-shirt led to them outperforming those that didn't. So it's the connections that we make within our head. I mean, and in the book there are all of these kind of brain games that you can play to help you find what your source of energy is and turn it into your superpower. So I know what energizes me. What energizes me, as most of you will know, is helping people speak, helping people deliver speeches. You know, but if you put it like that, it's quite boring. So I've turned that into my superpower. Have you noticed, like, that is kind of the way that I'm pitching it? You know, if you want the wow, pre-order now. Yeah. Do you want to hear some super powerful rhetorical devices? Do you want to know why the cover looks like that? Do you want to know why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I am Batman. And so you see, this is what we can do. And this is something that, in actual fact, high achievers all over the place do. One of my favourite people in history, I know I share this with you, Rob, is Muhammad Ali. You know, I mean, absolutely the greatest. And I love the way that he saw himself as a superhero. And he had all of these things about thinking big, talking big, acting big, and of course being big. But there's a great story about Muhammad Ali in the 1970s, actually, when he was on a plane. And the stewardess said to him, "You've got to put your seatbelt on." And Muhammad Ali said, "Superman don't wear no seatbelts." And the stewardess said, "Superman don't need no airplane." Muhammad Ali went, he put his belt on. But also as well, it's like, you know, what are the connections we make when we think of other people? In the age of, you know, polarisation and division, it's so easy to think of people that we disagree with as being less than human, the topic of my last book. But, you know, why focus on what divides us when we have something in common which is much more important, the fact that we are all human? One of the things I absolutely love about the group of people that we have here tonight is that within this room we actually have people who have written speeches for the leaders of each of the three main parties, and I kind of generously include the Lib Dems in there, Greg. You know, your time might come back again. But you know, we can disagree heartily about many things, but we can all agree that we love cocktails, cake, conversation, and of course, alliterative three-part list. Yeah, come on! Yay! There are heaps of other connections that I run through the book. The connection between morality and mundanity, past and present, dreams and deeds, all of these different things that we can look through. It's jammed with hacks, revelatory facts, eye-popping stories. I really want you to read it. Like Rick said, it's big-hearted. I really put my heart and soul into this book. And it is the book that I have always wanted to write, you know, which is giving rhetoric forever, rhetoric for everyone. Before I finish, I do just want to say some thank yous. I want to really say thank you to Sally Holloway at the back of the room, who is my agent extraordinaire, who has got such... she's got such an incredible eye for detail, but she's also invested, and I'm very conscious of this, a lot of time, and of course in everyone's business, time is money. She's invested so much time in helping me to develop as a writer. I think I first made contact with Sally 4.5 years ago, maybe, and I think she's only just received like a few quid for that. So, I mean, it's, she's had a long journey to get here, but I really want to thank you, Sally. I really want to thank Rick as well, and all of the team at Hello. Rick, you've been such a dream to work with. You've got, look at this guy's smile. I mean, I write in the book about the power of smile, and every time that I see you, Rick, and every time that I speak to you, I feel really good, and you've been fantastic, and you have inspired, influenced, and energised me all of the way through as well. Thank you so much. Brilliant. I really want to say thank you, of course, to Lucy as well. Lucy, it's about 20 years ago, it was 20 years ago today, almost 20 years ago today, that we went out for a quick drink after work at the DTI, and we went just round the corner to Gerrard Street, and we were there, we found a late night drinking den. It's probably still there, steel door. We were there until 5 o'clock in the morning, and it got to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was there, and this was on a school night, and I was like, there's no point me going home, I'm just going to go straight into the office, actually. And I went into the office, I went into Colin Seabrook's office, and then I woke up in the morning and I thought, oh my God, this is the hangover from hell. My head was like really banging. It was Colin trying to open his on my head, And we're still together 20 years later, celebrating 18 years of marriage, and with any luck, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning with a throbbing head as well. Not like that, you perverts, you absolute perverts. Disgusting. Disgusting. So I also want to give really big thanks to my brother Brendan. I'm absolutely gutted that he can't be here. He came down with the lurgy, bloody corona yesterday, having spent two plus years carefully avoiding it. But he knows, he really knows where I come from, He knows where I come from. And I grew up in a one-bedroom flat behind Paddington Station. Me and my brother sharing a bedroom, and my mum sleeping in the front room. We literally never had a bean, but we always had a dream. You're like in the... And we've always been like Del Boy and Rodney. We are still like Del Boy and Rodney, and you are Rodney. But we've always been this time next year. I think Paddington Station is now only 2 stops away on the Elizabethan line, but it's been a long journey, and he knows, like from when I was 18 years old, and I was listening to EMF and watching EastEnders and reading about places like the Groucho Club in, the bizarre column, in the Sun, and the idea that I would be here today, 30 years later, with launching my 4th book with Ian from EMF in the room.
You're unbelievable, Simon.
Yeah! I've been waiting 32 years for that. 32 years! With Ian in the room, with John York, who's the boss of EastEnders, and we're here in the Groucho, and, isn't life grand? But, thanks, bro. I have always looked up to you, even though you're shorter than me. There we go. A round of applause for my brother. We started, of course, with the EMF. We're ending with EMF. You can feel we're coming full circle. Now, sincerely, I hope that my book inspires, influences, and energises all of you to inspire, influence, and energise other people, just like you have all inspired, influenced, and energised me all of my life. Was that the I mean, 3 times 3. Come on, that deserves something. You know, I really, really believe that people need this book now more than ever. People need to be connected. People need to be involved. People need to feel like they belong. People need to feel like what they're doing is making a positive difference to the planet. So my call to all of you is to give them that. You know, make people feel connected, make people feel involved, make people feel that they belong. If you do that, you are meeting one of their deepest needs, really. And in return, they will give you all the support that you are looking for. And it's really not hard to do, folks. As Boris Johnson proved with Brexit. It's a piece of cake.